Let's talk more about corn. Let's focus on soybeans. Technical Seed Agronomist Robert Coster here on July the 8th, 2020, the next 10 days. Soybean growth and development. Well, I know we got beans that were just planted in a double crop situation. We have some older beans as well, so our maturities are spread out, but a lot of the things need to happen in the next 10 days on some of these older beans. Now I pulled a couple of plants here. First one I'm focused on is looking at staging our maturity, our growth stage. Now if I pull a plant up and it's got one flower at the bottom, that's an R1. If the plant is fully flowered all the way up, that becomes an R2 growth stage. It's about 5 to 6 days from R1 to R2. However, when I get those first pods at the bottom start to form, and those reach about 1/4 inch, that's an R3. So it's going to take about 10 days to go from R2 to R3. So that's coming up real fast in a lot of our soybeans acres. So a couple things I want to focus on. First and foremost is our nodulation. A couple plants here. This one, we don't see much nodulation out here on the side, right? You know, that nodulation is that symbiotic relationship the soybean forms our rhizobia. If you inoculated your soybeans or your beans behind beans, typically that happens really well. However, not always. And so we have to check our nodulation. You know, this plant, I have a little bit of nodulation here at the crown, but not really lateral on those roots. This plant has good nodulation all the way out. And I broke a lot of this off when I dug it up with my shovel, but I need to check my nodulation, see if they're healthy. And so I want to do that, take that and kind of run my thumbnail through the middle of that. And if you open that up and that is brown inside, then that nodule is dead. You're not getting nitrogen being fixed by that rhizobia, atmospheric nitrogen being fixed by that rhizobia. If you open those up, and a couple of those, and those are good and light pink inside, that's a healthy nodule. Now, if you take that plant and throw it on your tailgate and leave it for 30 minutes, all of those nodules will die, and that's a good indication too. And so you can open those up and see if they're healthy. Why is that important? Soybeans use 4 to 5 times more nitrogen per bushel than a corn plant does. So if I use a 1.0 conversion rate on corn, I have to use a 4.5 conversion rate on soybeans. So if I'm growing 50 bushel beans, I've got to fix at least 225 pounds of nitrogen with that rhizobia. That's very key. And we also see that as we hit 60, 70, 80, 90 bushel, and even some 100 bushel soybeans, a lot of times our rhizobia is not able to keep up fixing the nitrogen for that high demand. So 90 bushels, I'm at 4, that's 360 units of nitrogen that rhizobia has to fix. So we're seeing some research indicating that we do get a yield bump with additional nitrogen applied at this R3 growth stage. R3 growth stage is also important for a couple other reasons. One is fungicide timing. This is a sweet spot for getting our fungicide out. And so if you're going to apply a fungicide, that needs to happen in the next 10 days is our R3 growth stage. Very key to get that in there. Another thing you do is scout for our diseases. Do we have frog eye? I don't have it in this field. A lot of our varieties are very tolerant to frog eye, so I'm not getting much show up yet, but frog eye typically starts to be evident on the plants at this flowering stage. So really key thing to look at is scout for diseases. When I put my fungicide, I want to make sure I've got master lock in the tank, get that fungicide down through that canopy and not just on the top leaves. The last thing to think about when we apply our fungicide is insecticides. You know, as corn starts to dry down, as our ditch banks start to dry down, those stink bugs will move from those areas into this green salad bar of our soybean field and really cause issues with, you know, bean development inside that pod as they sting that pod. So we're doing scout for insects. You know, a lot of research shows that insecticide with the fungicide is a synergistic effect, and that's really keeping that soybean plant clean. Last thing I failed to mention earlier is a great time now before you make those applications, take a tissue sample. Just see where your plant is nutritionally. If you need to make any additional applications, you can, but you're going to follow your tissue sample to see what those nutrients that the bean plant needs. So check your inoculation. Are they healthy? Are they not? Check your growth stage. Get ready to apply that fungicide. And that's kind of what we need to be focused on the next 10 days as far as our earlier planted soybeans go in the mid-south.